everyone, and welcome to a bit of a book recommendations video. Recently I've really been enjoying the if you like this book, you may like this book kind of book reviews. So I'm going to try and do that for you today, and hopefully some of these recommendations will be a little bit different and a little bit unexpected. We shall see how we go. First off, we're going to start with quite an obvious one that I've talked about before, and that is going to be, if you like Six of Crows, you're going to love the Mistborn series. Six of Crows, as you may or may not know, is about a group of people who come together to perform a heist. And as you may also know, I hated it. I thought it was such a bad book, but it's really popular, and one of the reasons I think it is popular is because of that very specific plot. A whole bunch of individual characters come together to do one task. Now this is where Mistborn comes in. Mistborn is about a vast group of very different characters who come together to see if they can overthrow the final empire. It's set in an amazingly vast fantasy world. The characters are hugely different and individual. They have different motivations and different interests, and as an extra bonus, the magic system is absolutely incredible. This is one of my all-time favorite series, so if you do like Six of Crows, I really recommend you giving The Final Empire a go. Next up, we have another book that I didn't particularly enjoy, which is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, this book is about a strong female character. She's an assassin and she ends up in a castle. There are royal intrigues and so on and so forth. So if you're into that sort of plot, I would really recommend A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. A Darker Shade of Magic is about a world where there are three different parallel universes, three different parallel Londons that we follow. One of them is our own, which is Grey London. The other is Red London, where most of this story is set and where our main character comes from. This London is full of magic and wonders, and then you also have White London, which is a London that used to have magic, but magic is now very rare, and so that world is kind of slowly falling apart. Now the reason I think people who like Throne of Glass will like A Darker Shade of Magic is that it introduces a very strong female character. She's not the main character, but she does become more of a main character as the series progresses, and you also have castles and royal intrigue in this book as well. My next recommendation is if you liked the vast world building in The Name of the Wind. There isn't very much that can beat The Name of the Wind, to be honest, but I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna recommend you The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becca Chambers. Now, I know The Name of the Wind is fantasy and The Long Way is sci-fi, but I think they're very similar in the sense that the plot is kind of dragged out, it's slow pace, but then also fast pace where it needs to be fast pace. The world building is really, really good, and you get an insight not only to one part of that world, but also a vast galaxy. So if you're a fantasy nerd like me and you may want to dip your toe into some sci-fi, try The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Then I have probably my weirdest and most unexpected coupling, which is, if you like They Both Die at the End, you might like Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Once again, completely different genres, completely different plot lines. What are you thinking, Signa? They Both Die at the End is a contemporary, Scythe is a fantasy slash sci-fi slash dystopian, depending on how you want to define it, but I do think they talk about a very similar theme. Now, I haven't actually finished Scythe yet, but from what I've gathered so far, both Scythe and They Both Die at the End explore the concept of death and what happens when the way people die changes. In They Both Die at the End, humanity has figured out a way to let people know 24 hours before they die that they are gonna die, and in Scythe, the world has become so developed that people don't actually die, and humanity themselves have to make the decision on who dies in society to make room for new people. They have different ways of approaching the theme, but if you're interested in that sort of idea, I do think you're really going to enjoy Scythe. The next recommendation I have is if you like This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab, you may like Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Both two authors I've already included in this recommendation, so basically just go and read any Sanderson and any V.E. Schwab, but I will let you know why you need to read Elantris specifically. So This Savage Song kind of explores the idea of what it is to be a monster in a human world. Now, what's interesting about Elantris is that it explores what it's like to be cursed in a human society. Elantris is set in a world where humans used to be turned into gods by this mystical force, but all of a sudden all of the gods got turned into cursed people instead. And without going into too much detail, that didn't sit too well with humanity, and the cursed people are basically shunned from society and forced to live their life secluded. Both stories talk about what that does to an individual and also also what it does to society as a whole. Very interesting reads, both of them. If you did like this Savage song, then definitely give Elantris a go. Finally, I have a recommendation suggested by my friend Petra. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because I haven't actually read the book that she recommended, but I'm going to include it anyway because it made a lot of sense. She says if you liked the Percy Jackson series, which I don't have with me at the moment, but I have read and I do love, then you might like Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I think it's pretty obvious why you might enjoy this. It's mythology, and so is Percy Jackson based on. These are also retellings of the Norse stories, and I myself am very excited to read it because it feels like it's gonna be me reading about my own heritage and where I come from. So I recommend you all to pick this up and read it as well if you're interested in mythology. Those are all the book recommendations I have for you today. Please let me know down below if they seemed somewhat relevant. I hope they did. I tried very hard to mix and match books here and give you all something that you might be interested in, even though obviously I'm very into fantasy and sci-fi, so most of these books are fantasy and sci-fi. I hope you found something for you here, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye.